And we've always said the altcoin season is triggered when Ethereum moves, not when Bitcoin. Bitcoin can move and stop and move and stop on its own. It's only when Ethereum then goes as well, where it really has, certainly in the past cycles, that's been the real indicator. Hello and welcome to this week's crypto update. So what's been happening in the market, what's happening in macro, and what's happening within the crypto cycle. So first and foremost, the big headline really is no rate cuts. So the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, said there's no need to rush on interest cuts. His quote is, "The economy is still strong overall. Inflation has moved much closer to our 2% goal, although it remains somewhat elevated. With our policy stance now being significantly less restrictive than it has been," because he's referring to when they pulled it back by 100 basis points, "we do not need to be in a hurry to adjust our policy stance." So basically they're saying, in general terms, whether they increase interest rates or decrease interest rates, the two main things they look at are, number one, the level of inflation, and number two, the overall US economy, mainly looking at the jobs market. So if, for example, inflation is moving upwards and the job market is really strong, they would increase interest rates to try and tame inflation, and the economy can be seen to take it. If, for example, the economy is doing really poorly and the inflation is really low, then they can afford to reduce interest rates, which brings more money back into the economy, promoting more jobs, and inflation can take a little bit of a rise. What happens so they've been trying to bring it down to 2%. It has been stubbornly sticking around 2.7, 2.8, now 2.9, and it is not coming down towards their 2% target. It needs to get there. So they have paused reducing interest rates because they were afraid if they continue to reduce it, inflation will start to tick up. All the while, the jobs market seems to be holding pretty strong. So what else is happening? Powell was also asked when QE would begin. So QE is basically pumping more money into the system. More money in the system is good for risk on assets, but of course it can add to inflation. He stated that there would be no QE until rates hit zero. So again, for risk on assets like the stock market or for crypto, this would be seen as being bad news. They want to see money being pumped into the system to increase the valuations of all of those. And on top of that, their worst nightmare just came true because inflation came in above expectations. This is just yesterday, and not just slightly. This was the hottest inflation report since 2023. The headline CPI inflation was expected to remain flat at 2.9, while core CPI inflation was expected to fall to 3.1. Instead, what was meant to stay flat at 2.9 has rose to 3.3 even, and the core CPI inflation didn't reduce to 3.1, it increased to 3.3. So now we're seeing inflation is starting to tick up. In that environment, not only would they not reduce interest rates, they'll at least have to pause them. And who knows, while this isn't on the cards at the moment, they may even have to consider increasing interest rates. This would be hugely detrimental to the overall stock market and indeed crypto itself. On top of all of this, their month-to-month basis headline CPI surged by 0.5%, which is way above the expected 0.3%. And this marks the first 0.5 increase since August 23. So again, another area where it's showing these all these markers are moving up instead of what they were hoping for is down. And the biggest part of all of this is this doesn't even take into account all the newly established tariffs on China and other countries, which are likely to put inflation up even higher, certainly at least in the shorter term. With this new data, the market now sees just one rate cut in October 25. From there, the next expected cut isn't until December 26, not 25, 26. So what this is saying is just a number of months ago, they were talking about 3, 4, maybe even 5 rate cuts throughout this year, which of course would be usually bullish for risk on assets. However, now they're talking about only one, and even it's being floated now that maybe there'll be no more rate cuts this year. Nowhere is anyone mentioning the fact that the rate cut or interest rates might actually increase, but certainly now the market has all along been pricing a number of rate cuts. That's gradually been taken away, and then you would, that is not good for risk on assets. Will they start to price in now the fact that there's less and less likely chance of any interest rate cuts? We'll see. Now, on to crypto. So this week has not been kind to Ethereum, and in fact, this year hasn't been kind to Ethereum so far. It's down 6% in the last week. It's down 20% this year to date. This follows speculators piling into the largest Ethereum short position in history. So a short position means investors are betting the prices will drop. So more people than ever, more money than ever has now bet on Ethereum coming down even further than it already has. What else is happening? Well, Ethereum has dropped 20% this year, as I mentioned. But on a positive side, the total value locked, which is the more money that's put into the Ethereum ecosystem, is actually starting to rise. And while Ethereum short positions are at all-time highs, so the most people and certainly the most money betting on Ethereum reducing, the ETF inflows tell a different story. While speculators are shorting Ethereum like never before, smart money or institutional money is buying it up as fast as they can. The ETF inflows, there's been 3.2 billion since July launch, and most of that is in the last few months. Goldman Sachs has boosted their Ethereum ETF holdings by 2,000%. They've gone from 22 million in holdings to 476 million in holdings. So while there's a huge short position and the overall narrative on Ethereum has been negative for quite a long time, I have been saying in the last number of weeks there is something stirring with Ethereum. And we've always said the altcoin season is triggered when Ethereum moves, not when Bitcoin. Bitcoin can move and stop and move and stop on its own. It's only when Ethereum then goes as well, where it really has, certainly in the past cycles, that's been the real indicator. So we've seen things like meme coins and AI have their day, but altcoin season in general has not kicked in yet. And we'll touch more on that in a second. But back to Ethereum, you can see here, Ethereum, the blue line is the total number of Ethereum staked, and that's going back to the start of 2021. And on the black line is the price of Ethereum. The price of Ethereum over the last number of years is pretty much sideways. It was in around 4,000, back in July 21, and it's since hasn't really cracked 4,000. So interesting if you compare that to the likes of what has happened with the Bitcoin. But as of today, there's been 57 million Ethereum is staked, and that has increased by 487,000 Ethereum the past 2 weeks, which is a value of about 1.3 billion in today's prices. So there's something happening here with Ethereum. Big money is buying into the ETFs. More and more of Ethereum is being staked, therefore not being put out to be sold. I believe there is a real potential here. While they're trying to short the market and push the market down, I think there's further for Ethereum to go, though maybe not too much further. And then the powers that be can push the price of Ethereum. It'll cascade upwards then when all these short positions are liquidated, and you could see a sudden spike in the Ethereum price. It's interesting to watch, and it's certainly very interesting for anyone watching altcoin season. And then other factors out there. So far in 2025, stablecoins have grown by an additional 16 billion. Now that's a huge number as a percentage as well overall. So there's more and more money coming into the general crypto space. This is the liquidity point of crypto. The more liquidity, more potential upside. Also, we see with Bitcoin, the state reserve bill adds up to 23 billion in Bitcoin buys. So VanEck has said that some 20 US states now are mulling creating Bitcoin reserves, and so is the federal government. When you put together the numbers they're talking about, assuming those bills were to come true, you're talking about 23 billion in buying pressure. So Bitcoin is certainly not done yet. There's plenty more road to go. It's just literally a case now of, do we chop sideways for another while? And if we look at the Bitcoin chart, we can actually see, these two blue lines. I stated when we were heading towards the 100 grand mark that I felt that we'd hit the 100 grand, maybe break through to 103, 104, and then come back in under the 100 and travel between 90 and 100 grand. That's more or less what we've been doing. We're trading between about 105 and about 92, so roughly around the numbers we were talking about, but we're trading sideways now for nearly 3 months. So where does it go from here? To break that sort of a trend line, there has to be significant news. Hearing just another company buying Bitcoin isn't going to pump this now. It's going to take significant news to get this out of this channel. Significant positive news to break upwards, or significant significant negative news to break it downwards. At the moment, it's showing strength at these levels. If we were to break those levels, we could see that significant move down, and we could get down as far as 74, 75k Bitcoin. If that were to happen, we would see huge opportunities in the altcoin space. On that point, I'm going doing an insights video very shortly on how all the altcoins behave as Bitcoin fluctuates. It shows up a really interesting idea and what you should be looking out for, particularly if we now see Ethereum move and the opportunities within the altcoin space. And so back to the document. Is altcoin season cancelled? I've had a lot of people on to me, why hasn't this coin moved? When's the altcoin season going? Is it not going to happen at all? Have we reached the top? Well, here's a few charts created by Raoul Paul, a macroeconomist. He's actually brilliant and you really should follow him if you want to keep on top. These are a few charts that he created and were on the Milkman newsletter. So that's where I've pulled them from. The global M2 just broke out. So M2 is the global money supply. The more money in the system, the better for risk on assets. The more it's restricted, risk on assets tend to come back. So if you look at it here on the white line is the M2 global money supply and the green line is the Bitcoin price. And then the lines coming vertically here are each time that the M2 money supply is broken. So you can see here broken out and up. You can see here back in the start of 2016, funnily enough, when Trump had just taken power the last time around, you can see the money supply increased. What happened with Bitcoin? With a huge run up. Then back in the end of 19, just coming into 2020, again, you can see the white line here. There was a breakout. What happened? Fair enough, we had the COVID crash, but just after that, we had a huge up run again in Bitcoin. Well, that M2 money supply is just starting to break again. So towards October, it had a nice little spike up. What happened in crypto at that time? Bitcoin, of course, had a big run up. Since then, it had a little pullback, testing that line. And of course, we've had Bitcoin moving sideways since then. Is M2 money supply about to break out again? The chart would suggest so. And if that were to happen, Bitcoin tends to follow. So that's one big positive news for the future of crypto. On top of that, you've got the ISM. So what's that? It's a good proxy for the business cycle. And it's just started to go up. We can see here again, each time that the ISM has passed over the 50% mark, which you can see here in various levels all the way across. Each time it's done that, we've seen Bitcoin take off. And each time it's peaked, you can see that Bitcoin has peaked. So it's been a really good indicator. Well, what's happening? It's just starting to travel above that 50% mark. Is Bitcoin about to head off again? And lastly, when the ISM rises, altcoins take off. So we can see here, when this ISM number has been trending down, so have the altcoin market. When it's been trending sideways, so has the altcoin market. It's just starting to trend up. Does that mean the altcoin season is just about to kick off? Maybe so. But one thing I would note is pretty much since 2023, the ISM has been going sideways. The altcoin season has gone sideways. We haven't missed the altcoin season. Many people think because a few meme coins, a few AI coins pumped and so on, that we missed it. In fact, most of those coins that have pumped have actually come right back down to where they were. So altcoin season hasn't happened yet. Will it happen? When will it happen? That's what we need to keep an eye out for. But the opportunity is absolutely still there. Watch out for the insight video that I'll be releasing the next few days. And also watch out for the calls. We're going to have a lot of big updates coming over the next couple of weeks with WOW. Make sure you're on the platform, community.wealthtowisdom.io. And we'll talk to you all very soon.